Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to History Night. You know, we really appreciate that you came down to the club tonight because most people don't give two hoots in hell about history, but we know that you do. So, we're going to really want to take you back to an important time before this current age of tolerance. To a time when prejudice was known in this great country of ours. I know it's hard to believe, and you know, some people even claim that it never happened. But there was a time when people did not get along with each other. It was long before the Fourth World War. But in the interest of just knowing where we came from, we need to talk about it. We need to expose ourselves so that it will never happen again. So, we're going to tell you this evening about Mr. Faubus, the beloved, legendary man. And, you know, there was a time when people didn't think he was as great as they do now. You know, with all those statues and universities named after him. And, you know, even the Faubus Museum of Tolerance. It's great to see it coming up because now we know that people recognize the change in this great man. But there was a time when he was actually a prejudiced son of a bitch. He didn't like black people. He thought black people were somehow more like monkeys than he was. And he didn't come from no damn monkey anyway, you know that. But Mr. Faubus was the great governor of the state of Arkansas. When the United States government decided that the black children had every right to be at the high school as much as the white kids. And they said, Mr. Faubus, stand aside. Move that fat white butt and let the white people and the black people learn together. He didn't think that was such a good idea. He called out the National Guard. He blocked off the school. But we had the U.S. Army. Is this true? It probably isn't even true. But who cares? Because you're our captive audience. And what we know now is that he was unsuccessful in his bid to keep the blacks out. They walked proudly into that school. But he was so mad, he almost lost his mind. He couldn't sleep. He was lying in bed, he could not think of anything but how much he hated. He just hated the world. He hated the blacks. He hated the people who made him do this horrid thing to his beloved race. But as the days went by and he noticed the kids coming in and he noticed their parents, you know, a slight change came over him. And he didn't even know why. But I'm now here to tell you the story of why this happened. Yes, because deep in the sleep of the night, Mr. Faubus could hear the tinklings from the jazz club down the street across the bad railroad tracks in the seedy part of town where the jazz musicians hang out and smoke that marijuana and stuff. And ate that weird stuff. And they played some of those chords that were not supposed to be played. They were playing those chords that had those strange names, and they were dissonant. They didn't sound right at all. But they were somehow intriguing to Mr. Faubus in his dead sleep. And deep in his soul, things started to come up, things he had no idea were there, and he still doesn't. In the daytime, But the next night, he was so taken with it. He got into it so bad. He got up right out of bed. He walked right out the front door. He walked right down the street. And he was walking into time with the beat. Yes, sir. He walked right down across those railroad tracks, straight into Shantytown, right down to the club. He looked in the window, and who was there but Mr. Charlie Mingus playing with his band. He looked at the great man. You could see the brain inside of that man's head. It was awesome, baby. And he could hear the true depth of the music, and it got him so much. Here, a man who thought he had no musical talent whatsoever, and thought he did not come from any monkey or nothing like that, sat right down at the piano and looked at those black keys and those white keys sitting right next to each other, and he started to tinkle, and he tinkled his brains out. Taken with this tinkling. He said, that's some pretty bad shit you're playing there. What's your name, anyway? You know, these people didn't have any idea that this could possibly be the same guy or anything. It's not like they didn't know who he was. But he had a completely different face. Those furrows were gone. Those crinkles between his eyebrows. And he looked at the keyboard, and he saw those black notes and those white notes playing that beautiful music together, right next to each other. He started really digging those minor seconds, and those major seconds, and those flat nines, and plus nines, and everything about it. He sort of floated home in his sleep. And that next morning when he woke up, he had a new attitude on life. He loved the black people and the white people. He saw them. He saw the music in their souls. Suddenly he got it, ladies and gentlemen. He saw that jazz was the way to communicate the souls of all the people. And the rest is history. We now know Mr. Faubus is the great man. The man who's inspired that new amendment to the Constitution. Anyway, we're dedicating this tonight to the great jazz master of the piano, Mr. Faubus.